a lot of people that I'm sort of talking with and I'm connected with, and some of them are way smarter than I am on the business side of things. So I'm constantly picking their brain and we're trying to figure out maybe some new strategies, some new approaches. Is there a way to bring the artists and the filmmakers in to be a part of the ownership?
This is the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast, helping filmmakers who share a Christian worldview stay in touch, informed, and inspired. Quiet on set. Rolling. Today's host is Jaclyn Witt.
You're listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. My name is Jaclyn, and today I've got Jesse Hutch with me. This is our second interview, so if you didn't hear the previous one, go back. You can hear his bio. It's pretty cool. So I'm glad to have you back, Jesse. And I actually had a question on my mind during our last interview, but I didn't ask because you were so interesting in like the direction we were going. So I kind of just went with it. But I am curious to know, how did your parents respond when you decided to get into film?
Right out of the gate, I was raised by a single mom. I had a brother who was 6 years younger. And at the age of 21, when I was like, hey, Mom, I'm moving across the country. I think I'm going to pursue this acting thing. At first, she was like, oh, okay. Like, you're going where? For how long?
Right. Where's my baby going?
And yeah, exactly. As a mom, she had that, but yet she was still quite supportive. She still was very much like, all right, well, I trust you prayed into this and I trust that you're going to go give this a shot. So go, I guess, give it a try. What can I do to help support? So my mom was always behind me. My brother, he's my brother. He didn't have a choice, but he's awesome about it. He's always been supportive. My parents divorced when I was 11. So my dad actually wasn't in the picture for me at that point in my life. To sort of sum up a giant part of my life, from the age of 11 until 24 years later, when I actually went and finally sort of found my father, got him on the phone, and really felt that God had put it on my heart to forgive him. That was something that started to rebuild our relationship in that area. And so I did find out that throughout my entire life, he had known that I was an actor. He had been following my career and he had been watching me grow and develop as an actor, like on screen. There was no connection or no contact or no letters, no phone calls, like nothing between us for 24 years. So I think God really used that as a sort of a development of my character. And I can't speak into his life, but I know that God's always developing all of us. So I know that he was working on my father as well on the other end. And so I would say overall, my family was quite supportive. And I'd say that even now that I'm married, I have 3 children and they're still supportive and always checking in and what's up and where you're going and what are you doing over there now? And so sometimes, they have to check in and we got to catch up with each other because sometimes things just are flying and they're fast and it's furious. And I could fly into a place and be gone 24 hours later and didn't even have a chance to tell my mom that I booked this thing. You know what I mean? So I have to eventually when we have a catch up call, I'm like, oh, by the way, Mom, I was in Ontario. I filmed a thing. I left. But yeah, they've always been supportive. So
oh, that's good.
It's good to have that support. And of course now, right, like my wife, she kind of married into this business and that's crazy.
Yeah, it's not an easy business to be in, even when you're single.
Absolutely. My wife was never in the business, which I think is great. You do what you got to do and make your relationships work no matter what. But I do think that there's something really special and precious about the fact that my wife didn't start in this business and she has a different upbringing and a different perspective. And that's really helpful in our lives now and in my career. Although I am sort of bringing her into this a little more and more, I would like for her to start maybe producing with me a little more. She has a keen eye for people's character. So I do bring her out to business meetings actually quite often. And I'm like, hey, can you just be present, just listen and observe. And if you want to chime in, go for it. But if you don't have to. But it would be nice to just have you there because I do think that she has a gifting and in just sensing people's character. And so that's important to me. And I think that sometimes I'll miss things and she'll pick up on something and it's good for us to take that into account.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's good that you have that. It's really cool when you can work together as a team in a marriage. Jeff and I work together and it's funny though, when you work with your spouse, it's like you get to see like where they thrive and the things that they're good at. And then also there's times where when you're both kind of into the same thing and then there's maybe some conversations that have to be had of, okay, how are we going to go this way? Because we both have a vision, but they're not compatible. So, working things out, and I guess marriage in general is like that. But I think when it comes to art, it's one of those things because there's so much emotion involved in business, same thing, right? When you're building something, when you're working with your spouse, it does give you an opportunity to grow in a different way, I think.
Yep, God will push your buttons and sharpen the iron and do everything necessary. And he
Exactly.
definitely uses your marriage. He uses your kids. He uses your vocation. He'll use everything. He'll use your neighbor. He'll use the bird flying by, like whatever.
The roosters. Oh my goodness. We have roosters that live next door. They, I'm telling you, they don't just crow during the day.
See?
I wanted to ask you about distribution. We were in a networking call together a few weeks ago, and you had mentioned something about distribution, and I found it interesting. So I think it's no secret that the industry is changing so much from so many different angles, but distribution is definitely one of them. And it is such an important part of film. I mean, you can make a beautiful project, but if nobody sees it, all that money was just to create something that nobody got to see, right? And how do you make that back if you don't have the distribution? So I would love to hear your thoughts on distribution. I'm not even going to give you a specific question. I'm just going to give that to you. Tell me about distribution.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have a lot to learn about it still. And as you said, things are changing. So we're in this interesting time and space where I believe that the old Hollywood model still exists and it's still floating around. And yet there's this new approach. Streamers have changed a lot of things. iPhones have changed a lot of things. Anybody can go shoot something now. You still got union work, you got non-union work. So you throw all these things into the soup bowl and we're all trying to figure out how to make stuff.
Right.
And I think too that it's important that we try our best to honor everyone. So how do you create a good business plan where if someone's going to come along and invest in your project, it doesn't become another one of those projects that they're like, great, I lost 650,000, I lost 1 million, I lost 3 million, I lost 10 million, didn't see a penny back.
That's a lot to lose.
And nobody likes that business. I mean, it's any regular business person generally, I think, would look at the film industry and go, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And we have to honor that. And so a lot of people that I'm sort of talking with and I'm connected with, and some of them are way smarter than I am on the business side of things. So I'm constantly picking their brain and we're trying to figure out maybe some new strategies, some new approaches. Is there a way to bring the artists and the filmmakers in to be a part of the ownership? Is there a way to bring people in so that we're all going home and troubleshooting this? Because let's be honest, right? Just pick your local coffee shop and chances are X amount of baristas are going home that night and they do not think about work. They don't think about the next day. They're not thinking about how they're going to improve the shop. They're not thinking about how they're going to bring in more finances. They're just done. They go home and they're done. And there's a time and there's a place for that. But on film, that's generally what kind of happens. People get hired, they go home and they're done. They wipe their hands clean. And when they come back the next day, they pick up their equipment, they do what they're doing, and then they leave again. And so how do we change that model so that people come in and they're actually excited, they're interested, they're a part of this, right? Like we're hearing them out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you handle that well? Because you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, quote unquote, but you also want people to go home that night and go, man, how are we going to fix this set so it works for tomorrow? How am I going to build that better? You know, hey, how am I going to shoot?
Yeah.
You know what? This camera just doesn't work. We need a different camera. How am I going to get a different lens? Hey, you know what? This stunt, I think it could be improved. I think, how can we fix that? Hey, this financing, it's just not working. How do we bring in different type of financing? How do we strategize this? Just how do you get people to go home and want to be a part of this? And so, I don't know, maybe there's an equity approach that we can do. Like I said, a bunch of us sort of working on these things. I'm trying to find ways of like, how can people move their money and put it into projects where it makes sense for them as business women and as businessmen? How does it make sense for these financial investors to handle their money? And then how does it make sense for us as creatives to be creative and utilize that money well and make things well? And so, I don't know, it's a big nut to crack. There is not one solution. Every project, I would say, has a different solution. Very rarely does one product have the same solution as all the others.
Yeah, well, and even the different projects are for different audiences, for one, different types, like whether it's a feature or a series or short, all of those seem to have different places that they perform better in. And it seems like so much of this is kind of like a game of, well, let's give it a shot and see how it goes. And I think there are some general paths that make the most sense that have kind of been forged where we know, okay, this seems to be like a good path to go. But with different platforms, different technologies, and different ways of doing business like you're talking about, I think it does open the doors for forging new paths. But of course, that's not easy to do. And I think a lot of distribution, they don't necessarily like doing things differently.
Mhm.
They like to see what's already working and go with that.
Yeah.
And so forging a new path is quite a challenge.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm always working on this because it's an avenue, which is, all right, I need to get my career to the point where I'm like Brad Pitt, where if someone attaches me, it matters and it makes a difference. That's
Right.
one avenue, but it's going
Yeah.
to take me my entire life to get there. And can you even get there anymore? I don't know, right? This is a different world we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Can you create the next Tom Cruise in this market? I don't know. Maybe. The other avenue is, okay, well, how do I find good business plans then? You know, what's a good business strategy? Everybody still wants content, but I'm finding most people they don't want to pay for you to develop it. They don't want to pay. They just want it done, and then maybe they'll make an offer.
Mm-hmm.
But yet here we are, we're all out here and we're like, okay, well, how the heck do I get the money to make it so that you have it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like there's new letters of intent that I'm seeing. There's new approaches that are not the typical that some people are like, wait a second, what is this? Is this for real? Is this sketchy? What is this? And some of the avenues you're like, oh, okay, I see what they're trying to do. That's interesting. Maybe we try it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a trial and error business. And all I can say is, I mean, if you don't give up, then maybe something will work out for you.
Right.
Because the alternative is you give up and then it's definitely not going to work for you.
Right.
This is a long game. Anybody who wants to get into this just for glory real quick, well, it's the wrong business.
Yeah, definitely the wrong business. First of all, nothing happens quickly in this business. And then second of all, it's so hard to get to that level, like what you're saying. Even you, after all of these years, you're still like, okay, but how do I get myself to be in that position where me being attached to a project means that degree that it's an obvious yes for funders, right?
Take your media mountain with Content Christian Media Conference. Join hundreds of filmmakers, actors, screenwriters, podcasters, and authors on September 22nd to 26th at the 40-acre Christian Film Studio, Capernaum Studios in Poolville, Texas. New this year, hands-on training in acting, writing, cinematography, editing, AI, VFX, and more. Grow in your craft with over 45 workshops. Also new this year, a full-day networking event specifically designed to help you make meaningful connections, grow your community, and build your team. Christian Media Conference has a 5-star rating. Go to christianmediaconference.com and discover the long list of world-class speakers, workshops, boot camps, and more. That's christianmediaconference.com.
I have a question for people that are listening that are thinking that they have a project that they want to film and go to streaming. What kinds of, whether it be cautions or things that they would want to keep in mind of what happens when you sell something to streaming or lease something to streaming or release? I know that some people might just assume once it's out there, you make money. Tell me some things that would be really important for them to be paying attention to in that process.
That's a big question. I think we touched on it a little bit. They say that there's many avenues. So you really need to know deep in your heart what you really want to try to do. Is this a project that you really are okay to just part with? Is it a project that you kind of hold dear to your heart and you want to be a part of it? That does change the way that you move forward. But to be honest, don't let that stop you from moving, because it's better to have a conversation, like a real, genuine conversation with someone that is even going in the wrong direction, that doesn't make sense to your project, than it is to be hesitant and be fearful and be skeptical. Because I've found that I've had that happen to me a little bit. It's like, you just want your heart to be in the right place when you're doing things. And to be honest, for me, the only way to do that is it has to be God's thing. It can't even be my thing. Like, I wrote the script and there's some that I'm like, man, I really want to be in this. Like, I really want to direct it, or I really want to produce it. Very few of my projects am I willing to just be like, I'll sell it to anybody and don't talk to me ever again. That being said, I mean, if I ran into James Cameron in the grocery store and he was like, and we got talking and he wants to buy my script, I'm probably going to go have that coffee meeting. I'm not going to be so quick to go, no, I really want to be in it. It's like,
Right,
well, hey,
right, yeah.
maybe this is an opportunity, that a door's opening that I never expected. And yet in your heart, you still need to know, like, what do you really want to do, right? Because that is what drives you to get out of bed in the morning. So it's like, be willing to be flexible, know what you want, but yet don't want it so bad that you kill it. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes
Yes.
We can
Yes.
kill our own dreams because we go, I
Mhm.
want to be an actor. I want to be a director
Yeah.
so bad. And your hands are around the dream.
Hold it too close. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, you and I are on video, but maybe people can't see that where I'm like strangling, I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
my
we're like
my
strangling the
hands are
project.
gripping. And I tell
Yeah.
you, I've done that. I mean, we've all done that as creatives. We go, no, it's
Yeah.
mine, baby. I need this.
Mhm.
And you know what? Maybe there's a time when you do that. Like we hear of the Sylvester Stallones,
Yeah.
right? When they created Rocky, we hear of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, right? When they got their movies off the ground. And there are moments when you're like, okay, maybe you just got to fight for it. And it seems nuts, but you got to do it.
Mhm.
And then there's other times when if the door opens and someone's willing to grab a coffee with you, then go hear them out.
I like what you're saying too. Like if you think about your projects before that moment comes, right? If you actually just go through and each project, you ask yourself, like, what degree of control do I want to have on this? Like, what priority is this going to have for me? Because I did that with my projects. And it was interesting when I got to certain ones that I thought would be really, really close to me because they were very emotional for me to write, where I felt like I was really close to it. And I realized, actually, I am good to release that. So I do have a lot of projects that I would be happy to sell and let someone else run with it. But like you said, there are some where I'm just like, this one, I feel like it needs to be done a certain way, and I wouldn't want to necessarily just let somebody else have that. And unless, like, if it's someone I trust. And that's kind of where one of the things that I tell people, if they do feel like they don't necessarily have the skills to make it come to life, but they do know that it needs to happen a certain way, be choosy or selective of who you work with so that you're working with someone that has the same vision or at least has the same heart and intention. So I think that like there's kind of that balance in there, figuring out how much of it you need to be in control of. But I think a lot of the time, if you can put together a good team, and like you said, this is actually circling back to the beginning of our conversation in the previous episode, when you can find people who are working in their element and you can release them to do what God's given them to do and just let them shine, it's amazing because they're probably going to do something different than what you had imagined, but potentially way better.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about a time where you learned something that really impacted you?
Yes. So I think that sometimes it's easy for us to get on social media, read an article, see something about someone, and we put together an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And we quickly form that that person's doing well, that person has this, that person has that. And man, it is so tough. But what we need to do is not get caught up in that. It's very important for us to continue to pray for others, hold others up. And if it is someone you genuinely know, then maybe you need to reach out to them, because I know that in this career where a lot of what I do is public, or at least it appears to be that way, people can assume that you are in one position. It could be political, it could be financial, it could be emotional, physical, spiritual. People may have an opinion on where you sit and where you are. And that's great and all. But the reality of it is that that may not be the truth in that moment. And so if I can encourage people through that, I mean, to be honest, like you said, I've been doing this for 25 years. I still can have the valley and I still can have the hilltop. I'll tell you, I've been in the valleys a lot as a father and a husband and someone who's in this industry, that you would think that everything would just line up perfectly and that everything would fall into place and that I would just have my bank accounts where I want them and that I would have the jobs
Right.
just rolling in and the offers
Yep.
coming in. That's not the case in this industry.
No.
I can lose a job tomorrow to someone who started yesterday.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, even though I say that, I do not discount and I still stand on the confidence that God's given me, that 25 years of me doing what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
It is different when you hire me, right? It's different when you hire a director of photography who has 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
a set decorator, anybody, name the job, 25 years, over 10,000 hours. I once figured out that on average, I memorize 1,200 pages a year just for auditions.
Wow.
That doesn't include my actual acting work. I haven't tabulated that up, but that's a lot. And I would
That is
say
a
that
lot.
out of those 1,200 pages, how many of those jobs did I book and actually get to do that professionally? Maybe 10%, maybe 2.
Wow.
It's way less than that. The amount of competition that is out there is unreal. I think it's important to have a real look at the industry that you're in, but don't let that discourage you. If anything, let it encourage you when even the small things work. So celebrate the tiny little things.
Amen.
Celebrate the fact that you got an email through to somebody at an office and they said, thank you, we'll read it. They may never read it, but
Yeah.
they told you that they might read it. Celebrate that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
also, don't let your heart get hard, because you may send something out. Like, I receive scripts all the time. Now that I've started producing, I have people send almost daily. I'm getting scripts. Just
Wow.
boom. I'm inundated with them. I've had some people reach out and their emails turn very angry. And to be honest, I would love to support everyone and I would love to help everybody get their script off the ground. And yet I'm over here with 24 on my own pitch deck, and out of those 11
Yeah.
and out of the 4 and out of the 2. And it's like I'm having conversations that I don't have the ability or the capacity to help everyone all the time, but it's on my radar. And sometimes there's a moment when I go, oh, wait a second, somebody sent me a script about that. Maybe you want to read
Right.
it. I haven't even read it yet, but here you go.
Right. Yeah.
So be encouraged too, that if you're out there and you're trying to reach out to somebody and like they didn't get back to you, they didn't text you on time, man, that happens. It's like, just say, you know what, God bless them, God go before them, be with them. Put that weight and that burden back on the Lord, because that's us trying to carry it. That's us trying to get our dream into a position that maybe God doesn't even want it there. And so we always have to go, hey, is this project for me or is this for the Lord? Is this acting gig for me or is this for the Lord? Like, I always actually pray now. I'm like, Lord, whatever the acting gig is, you could bring me in for one day and I'm going to go, Lord, let this be the best acting I've ever done. I do this for you first and foremost. And whatever the residual effect of it is, man, you get all the glory and you get all the honor. So if anybody appreciates it, anybody likes it, loves it, comes up and says they like it, they tweet, they Twitter, they whatever about it, it's all God's glory. It all goes to Him. So you have to keep your heart in the right place. And that being said, you're going to get messed up. You're going to have days where you're off. You're going to have days where you're cranky and you're upset and you're mad and you're hurt. But you know what? Have people in your life that you can go, man, I'm honestly just not in a good place right now, and keep praying through it, because that's the reality. So, I mean, I've just come through Q1. For me, was brutal. One of the hardest starts to a year in my life. And it has not been the funnest, and it has not been great. And it's been so challenging. And so you just got to keep going. I mean, you either give up or you don't.
Right.
Something I like to say, people can steal this if they want and use it if they feel it's helpful in their life. But I say, you know what? I probably quit every day, but I'm never going to give up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. That was really insightful. And I think that there's probably a lot of people that need to hear that. I have a lot of conversations with filmmakers, and a lot of the time when I have the conversations with them, it's when they are in the valley and they need that encouragement. And so I think one of the things that I have found, especially when I go through that valley and I need that encouragement, what I've discovered is that we all go through that. And I remember my writing mentor said to me one time when I was so discouraged, I had to go do another rewrite because there was a problem with my script or whatever. And he said, welcome to the world of writing. And it kind of just let me settle and realize, like, this is part of it. Like, the highs and the lows, this is just part of it. Like, of course it's not fun, but it's par for the course. And so there's nothing wrong with you. This is just the industry that you're in. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's one of the most loved sayings and so annoying.
I know, but it's true.
It is what it is. You're like,
is.
it's so true, but it's like, why?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jesse, so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I think our listeners have as well.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to everybody listening. Keep your eyes on the road. Appreciate everybody for having me on. And as I like to say, hopefully I'll see you out there.
All right. God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. If you've been enjoying this podcast, take a moment to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to support the production of this podcast, you can leave a tip at faffpodcast.com/support. Bringing filmmakers together for faith and family.